לראות את כולכם כאן, זה מפגש מאוד מיוחד עבורי. לפני שאני אזמין את האורח הכבוד שלנו, לואי שריף, אני רוצה להזמין את פרופסור אלבק, רקטור האוניברסיטה, כדי לשאת דברי ברכה.
שלום לכולם. פותחים בכבודה של אכסניה, אז אני רוצה להודות למחלקה למדעי המזרח התיכון, לראש המחלקה שראיתי אותו פה קודם, פרופסור זאב מגן, לנסיה שמר, דוקטור נסיה שמר, שאני מבין שהיא יזמה וארגנה. אירוע, אני חושב, כל כך חשוב וכל כך מרתק, בעיקר בתקופה הזאת, אבל בכל זמן, לא יודע, 1,600 השנים האחרונות, 1,400 השנים האחרונות, מפגש בנושא הזה הוא מפגש מרתק. תודה ללואי שריף שנמצא כאן. אני חושב שיחסי יהודים מוסלמים עברו הרבה עליות ומורדות לכל אורך ההיסטוריה. עליות ומורדות שבמידה רבה היו יכולים להימנע אם כל אחד היה מכיר את השני, כל אחד לומד על הצד השני, כל אחד מגלה שהשני הוא לא שד אלא גם אדם. ואני חושב שהאורח שלנו עבר את התהליך הזה של מאויב להכיר את האדם שבצד השני, וברגע שמכירים אז התפיסה משתנה לגמרי. אז אני באמת חושב שזו הזדמנות פז לשמוע בגוף ראשון מאדם שנמצא בשני הצדדים, יכול לספר לנו על התהליך כולו, ואולי על עוד הרבה דברים מעניינים. אז בעיקר אני מאחל לנו שיהיה סמינר, הרצאה, מפגש מעניין ומרתק. אנחנו נמצאים גם ערב יום השואה, עוד יומיים, אז אנחנו בכלל בתקופה מאוד מאוד מאתגרת. אנחנו עדיין בתוך מלחמה, אנחנו עדיין עם 59 חטופים, אנחנו עדיין עם הרבה מאוד פצועים ונפגעים ובני משפחה וחיילים במילואים. אז זו באמת תקופה מאוד מאתגרת, אבל אני חושב שדווקא בתקופה מאוד מאתגרת כזאת, טוב לשמוע את מה שאני מניח שנשמע פה היום. אז בעיקר שיהיה לנו מעניין ושיהיה לנו תקופה טובה יותר.
תודה רבה. אני רוצה להזמין בבקשה את פרופסור זאב מגן, ראש המחלקה ללימודי המזרח התיכון, לברך.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוהינו מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים ומן הים הגדול ועד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. אשמתי. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, ושלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן. سيداتي وسادتي طلابي الأعزاء والأحباء، أهلا وسهلا بكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. גבירותיי ורבותיי, סטודנטים יקרים, ברוכים הבאים. שלום עליכם וברכותיו ורחמיו של השם יתברך עליכם. אם מישהו תהה אי פעם מדוע האסלאם שם דגש כה חזק על הצד של רחמי האל, לכם את התקופה שבה אנחנו חיים כעת. إنه لشرف كبير جدا لنا في قسم لدراسات الشرق الأوسط هنا في جامعة بار إيلان أن نستضيف رجلا الذي والله أتعلمون ماذا؟ أن نستضيف رجلا يعني يكفينا أن نقول أن نستضيف رجلا كما ادعى الفيلسوف الأمريكي من القرن التاسع عشر رالف والدو إمرسون whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist الذي يريد أن يكون رجل فيتوجب عليه أن يكون مستثني. אני אתרגם. זהו כבוד גדול בשבילנו, בשביל החוג ללימודי המזרח התיכון והאסלאם כאן באוניברסיטת בר אילן, לארח אדם אשר, וכאן אני קטעתי את עצמי וחרגתי מהטקסט שהכנתי, כי הבנתי שהכבוד הגדול כאן זה לארח אדם, גבר, רג'ול. מספיק להגיד את זה, כי כפי שאמר הפילוסוף האמריקאי הדגול מהמאה ה-19, רלף וולדו אמרסון, מי ששואף להיות אדם, מי ששואף להיות גבר, פשוט חייב להיות נון-קונפורמיסט. חייב לשחות נגד הזרם. וכמה قال خير الوراء وسيد الكونين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كما قال السليل لوي بن غالب رسول الله أفضل جهاد كلمة الحق عند سلطان جائر. כפי שאמר מי שבעיני האסלאם הוא שליח האל ומי שהוא צאצא של לואי, חלק מהסטודנטים שאלו אותי מי זה, זה לואי, כמו לואי 14, צרפת, לרוע סולי, כן? לואי היה אולי פשוט נסגור את זה.
לא, אבל יש לו מצגת. אני באמת שאני לא צריכה לעשות את זה.
זה לא נורא. קצת ליווי מוזיקלי, לא, רק שאני לא אתחיל לרקוד פתאום. לואי היה הסבא רבא רבא של הנביא מוחמד, והנביא מוחמד אמר שהמאבק, הוא משתמש אשכרה במילה ג'יהאד, המאבק הראוי ביותר הוא אמירת אמת בפרצוף של רודן עושק. وأكبر سلطان جائر في العالم في أيامنا هو الأكثرية. كما نقرأ في القرآن الكريم في المصحف الشريف من بدايته إلى نهايته مرة بعد أخرى وأكثرهم لا يعلمون وأكثرهم لا يفقهون وأكثرهم لا يؤمنون وأكثرهم لا يشكرون. הרודן העושק הגדול ביותר בעולם הוא ההמון, העדר הפועה ולא חושב. כפי שכתוב בקוראן פעם אחר פעם, ורובם, אכתרהם, לא מבינים, רובם לא מפנימים, רובם לא מודים, וכיוצא באלה. ضيفنا اليوم هو مجاهد ضد جور والسفاحة الأكثرية. ضيفنا هو رجل. האורח שלנו הנכבד היום הוא לוחם נגד העושק והטמטום של העדר הפועה של ההמון הלא חושב. האורח שלנו הוא אדם, הוא גבר. אחד מהדברים שלואי שריף מדגיש אותם הוא החיבור בין היהדות והאסלאם. ואני רציתי רק לשתף אתכם דקה אחת לפני שאני מעביר לו את המיקרופון בחוויה שהייתה לנו, והיא חוזרת על עצמה מאות ואלפי פעמים כמובן, אבל ישבנו בכיתה לפני מספר שבועות וקראנו את איית אל-קורסי, פסוק הכס, אחד מהפסוקים החשובים ביותר למוסלמים בקוראן. אללהו لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا يأخذه سنة ولا نوم فله ما في الأرض وفي السماوات وفي الأرض. אלוהים, אין אלוהה מבלעדיו. לא תופסת אותו לא שינה ולא תנומה, והוא יצר את השמיים ואת הארץ. ופתאום כמה מהסטודנטים שיושבים כאן הרימו את היד, ומיד, בלי להסס, ציטטו מתהילים, כי מה שהפסוק בקוראן משתמש בו הוא המילה שנאה, שזה לא מילה שכיחה, זה לא שורש בשימוש בערבית, זה פשוט המילה שינה, ונום. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. זה אני מסיים. אוקיי. עזרי מהם השם עושה שמיים וארץ. הסמאוואתי והארד. אל ייתן למות רגלך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. הקשר הוא כל כך הדוק, ואין מקום שהקשר הזה יכול לבוא לידי ביטוי יותר טוב, לא באוקספורד ולא בהרווארד ולא בפרינסטון ולא בקולומביה ולא אלמה מאטר שלי ולא באף אוניברסיטה אחרת בארץ. חייבים להיות מאורים במדף הספרים היהודי כדי להבין את עומק הקשר בין האסלאם והיהדות. אנחנו מאוד מאוד גאים לארח את לואי שריף. תפדל יא סיידי. שוקרן ג'זילן.
I want to make sure that the song doesn't go up. So how to, okay, so. Okay, I'll just touch this from time to time. Okay, first of all, manishma, good beseder. I hope you speak, please tell me, yeah, for the record, okay. Please tell me you speak English and understand English, right? Akol beseder, Baruch Hashem. אני יכול לדבר בעברית, אבל in English it's much faster. So first of all, I am so honored to be here in Bar Ilan University. This is my first time, but this is my third time in Israel. And every time I go to Israel, I have to explain to my mom, may God bless her, in Saudi, how much I love Israel. לואי, למה אתה אוהב את השפה העברית ולמה אתה אוהב את מדינת ישראל? Why? So I always say, you know what? I learned from the Torah something that is very similar to Islam as well. It's כבד את אביך ואת אמך, לאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. You should on mother, and then also in the Quran وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So I love my mom so much. She's my weak point. But I always tell her, Mom, you have to understand. But the good thing is that my mom was my witness when I came back from Paris after I lived with a Jewish family. And she understands the journey that I went through. And I tell her, Mom, honestly, you know that my love for Israel is not because of Mossad agents sending me Bamba all the time. It's not that reason. And it's not because of anything other than I really fell in love with the Bible so much. I know it's you know, sometimes I meet ministers in the Gulf and royals, and they ask, why is it we see that when you speak about Israel in Twitter, it's like great love. I said, Wallah, it's the Bible. I know it's crazy, mishuga, ani odaya. Aval, it's the real reason. The Bible and the biblical Hebrew, every time I walk in Israel, or in Jerusalem to be specific, I feel it come to life. You know, I was in Masada 3 days ago, and I say to my Jewish friends, you know Masada, you know the word Masada should be in Arabic masadda, because it's mem sadi hey, and it's ken mem sadi dalet hey, and it shouldn't be mem samech dalet hey. It should be in Arabic masadda. It's a place where a rebel, or not a rebel, like a defense against something, and it's something that the Jews built to defend themselves against the Romans. And I always say to my Arabic audience, masadda or misada is a proof that the Jewish people not only existed but survived in their ancestral homeland. So I'm so happy that this is my third time. I promise you this will not be my last time. So don't. So inshallah, I'm coming again in summer, and I'm planning to come again in my favorite Jewish holiday of all the holidays. You know what that is? Hanukkah, mashallah, wow. Hanukkah, exactly. Hanukkah. And when I decided to speak in this lecture about the commonalities, I want you, first of all, to understand that there is a purpose for this lecture, which is everything I want to say now, everything I'll say in this lecture, I want you to take it as a weapon against those who say Muslims and Jews can never be friends. Arabs and Israelis can never be friends. I want you, please, to use the knowledge in this lecture as a weapon against the same people that persecuted the Jews 2,000 years ago. You know, the Romans, when they persecuted the Jews in their ancestral homeland, and they said, you will not live in this land and we will take you as captives. We have the modern day Romans. They are the radical groups like Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and those who fight Jews on their ancestral homeland. Everything I will say here, I want you to use it as a weapon, because it's not coming from a Jew, it's coming from a Muslim. It's coming from a Muslim who had so many crazy ideas when he was young. I am not the same Muslim that you see right now when I was 17. I memorized the whole Quran when I was 17, but I hated Jews so much. I hated Israel so much. If you tell the 17-year-old Lואי, what do you think about Jews? I would repeat the same thing that you hear by so many people in the Middle East. Curse be upon the Jews. Curse be upon Israel. But after I learned the truth, I changed from someone who says, curse be upon the Jews, to someone who say, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkinutecha Israel. Knowledge can make this difference. So I want you to use this knowledge in a battlefield, as a weapon against those who hate Israel and who hate the Jews. That is the main purpose of this lecture. Now, I always say to my audience, whether they are Jewish or Muslims, it is so important. It is so important to learn from the source. Why did I change as Lואי?
I knew about the Jews when I was young, but I knew bad things. I knew that they have tails, they have fangs. I believed one of my favorite books, I'll be very honest with you, was The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And the Egyptian TV drama show, it's called Faris Bila Jawad, A Night Without a Horse. That was my favorite. Great graphics and everything. And I believe in, that was 2002. I was 18, 2002. And I really believed in that. But when you learn from the source, things are different. And now, I want to tell you that there are so many things we can do together if we have the knowledge. And this is why I want to convey to you this knowledge from the source. So, there are so many shared values between the Quran and the Tanakh. I will share with you my best. And you can use them against those who say, we have nothing similar between us and the Jews. One of my favorite is monotheism. You know monotheism, like worshiping the one and the only true God? In the Quran, it's the prophets were saying to their people, Ya qawmi i'budu Allah ma lakum min ilahin ghayruh. Ma lakum min ilahin ghayruh. It's the exact phrase in the Torah, Adonai hu ha-Elohim, en od milvado. There is none but Him. He is the one and the only true God. And I always say to my fellow Muslims, you know, Jews really, you have to understand this, not only they are monotheists or believing in God, they are the first nation that ever believed in God. The first nation that came with the concept of monotheism. Monotheism, 3,000 years ago, was a blasphemy. The Greek or the Romans or the Babylonians or the Assyrians would argue with you, how could you worship one God? No, there has to be a God for love, there has to be a God for thunder, there has to be a God for sun, there has to be a God for moon. How could you just compile them in one God? This concept of one God was actually an Israelite concept. And I always say, our monotheism in Islam should be always remembered as the Israelite monotheism, that there is only one God. And by the way, when I go to Mecca and I do Umrah, I did Umrah in Ramadan, and when I pray to God, I always say, I call Him God, I call Him Allah, I call Him in Mecca El Shaddai. That is the first name that Abraham called to God, Allahul Qadir, El Shaddai. And I say to myself that this is the God that I worship. This is the real God that I worship. I call Him also the God of Jacob, Ilah Yaqub, the God of Israel, Ilah Israel. As King David said, Baruch Adonai Elohei Israel, Meha'olam ve'ad ha'olam, Amen ve'amen. That's my favorite. I have to repeat it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I have to, because you know, it makes the connection to those who don't know enough about Jews, or even some Jews who don't know about Muslims, that we really share this belief. This is so powerful in building bridges. And this is so powerful when Hamas propaganda talks about the Jews as non-believers or as people who don't believe in God. You have to fight that back with knowledge. That's one of my favorites. The second, as my friend says, you know, there is a verse in the Quran, we call it the verse of the throne, Ayatul Kursi, where it talked about Allah, where it talked about God, that He doesn't sleep nor slumber. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. And it's the same exact phrase in the Tehillim for another name of God. You know what that's the name of God? The protector of Israel. So it's so funny when a Muslim comes to you and say, Habibi, listen, Lואי, don't try to convince me otherwise. I'm a Muslim. I believe in all the prophets of God, including Prophet David and King David, but I'm against Israel. Okay, then do you know that David, when he used to pray, he said something like this verse, He doesn't sleep nor slumber, the protector of Israel. Do you know that David, that 1.8 billion Muslims around the world, many of them are named after, who say, I hate Israel so much, they are named after not a regular king, not a regular Zionist king, but a Zionist king who was so deeply in love with the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, that is Israel. And this is why I say it is so funny when I hear one of my Muslim friends come to me and his name is David, or Dawood in Arabic. And he comes to me and say, Lואי, Al-Quds or Jerusalem will never be the capital of Israel. It will be the capital of any other state. I say to him, okay, you know what? I would agree with that. Under one condition, you change your name. He said, why? What does this have to do with anything? I said, Dawood, you are named after the king who proclaimed Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It was not Donald J. Trump. It was King David. It was really King David. So when I provoke people, when I provoke my fellow Muslims with this kind of knowledge, it makes them, it makes them insult you first, but it makes them think back and say, no, what do you mean that King David? Yeah, my name is Dawood, and I love David, but we don't know much about David. We don't know much about his kingdom or his wisdom or about anything really about David other than that he's just a prophet and a king. And you know why I love the Bible? I'll be very honest and blunt. One of my main reasons to love the Bible so much is that if you give any nation in the world a book and you tell them, write the story of your nation, you know what they would write? The glories, only the good things, the good stuff. But the Bible does not sugarcoat David, Solomon, Yirmiyahu, Yeshayahu, anyone. It tells you what they did good, what they did bad, what they did wrong in the eyes of God. It tells you everything. And this is why, to me, the Bible is really the Word of God. And I really defend it vehemently because it is miraculous how it changes people's minds and hearts, like it did to me. It did change my mind and heart. So this is also a second shared thing that we can learn from the commonalities. And also,
what if they tell you that the Bible was changed or the Torah was changed?
I can answer that by saying that I can answer that by saying that this is a claim, then show me where is the original text. If you're saying that it's changed, you should tell me how it was changed, by who and where is the original copy. Before typewriting, before Gutenberg, we don't have any original copy of anything. It was just a scribe after a scribe. And for the Jewish people to change a text, it is not only hard, it is impossible. Jews taught the world how to write. I'll tell you why. You know, when a Jewish scribe wrote the Tanakh or the Torah in ancient times, they had to go through lots of harsh traditions to write that. They have to count the words, they have to count the lines, and if they find an error, if they do an error in one column, you know what they would do? They wouldn't get rid of it. They wouldn't burn it. They would bury it with rituals. This is why we find lots of Geniza in Egypt, like the buried documents that Jews wrote before Common Era. So my answer to those who say it is corrupted, I would tell them, please show me where it's corrupted. Yes, there can be some typos because, for example, if I'm a Jewish scribe and writing the word Aram or Adom, there is a difference between Resh and Dalet. I could have some slight changes, or it could be written differently, but that is not a deliberate change by Jews on the text. And you know what? One of my favorite things about the Hebrew Bible is the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, please take it as an advice. The Dead Sea Scrolls is Israel national treasure. The Dead Sea Scroll is the modern state of Israel's national treasure. Israel's national treasure is not Waze or cherry tomatoes or other products that are amazing. In my opinion, Israel's national treasure is the Dead Sea Scrolls because it shows the authenticity of the book that gave Israel its legitimacy. And I will speak about the Dead Sea Scrolls inshallah later. But back to the commonalities, this is also one of the great things that I love about the Bible, or I love about the Tanakh. And we also have a similar commandment, is that you should never hate the stranger. You should always love the stranger. And you know why this commandment is so special to my heart because when I lived with a Jewish family in Paris, she told me, Looy, Rachel, she told me, Looy, why do you hate the Jews? I said, Wallah, I was taught by my sheikhs and my scholars that you should hate Jews for the sake of God. You should hate for the sake, al-bughdu fillah. You should hate for the sake of God. This is a very wild interpretation of radical Islam. But you should hate for the sake of God. So I hate you because for the sake of God, Rachel, I'm just doing it for God. She told me, you know, Looy, that the Torah speaks so violently against the Egyptians because of what they did to the Israelites, to the children of Israel, when they enslaved them. That God will smite with his hands Egypt, that God will do this to Egypt, that God will do this. But when it comes to dealing with the Egyptians, God has a commandment. Lo teta'ev mitzri ki ger hayita be'artso. You should never abhor an Egyptian because you were foreigners in the land. God would never want you to hate someone eternally. There could be some, I'm just repeating the words of Rachel, by the way, from 15 years ago. There could be contextual hate or temporarily, but it's not permanent. But I said, no, but we have other verses as well that you should hate Jews and Christians and you should never take them as friends. If you believe that this is eternal, then you are doomed. You should always believe that they have a context that is not repeated every time and everywhere. And this is how I reconciled my faith, Islam. I say about the verses that say you should never take Jews and Christians as friends. Jews are the worst enemies of the fierce enemies of the believers. If you understand the concept that in the 7th century there was the Byzantine Empire and there were some political coalitions here and there that led to this understanding, you would say, okay, that was contextual, but it's not permanent. You should never hate a special group, an ethnic group or a religion or a specific group of people for eternity. So I always say to those who say we have text that says you should hate, I said there is nothing called hate for the sake of God. There are historical contexts that should be always remembering us that it is temporarily, but it's not eternal. That was one of my favorite. And of course, the last one is the one that I just said right now about honoring the parents. My mom loves this when I always talk to her about that. What did the Torah teach you? I tell her, and she likes that. So other than that, she doesn't want to listen, but at least she likes that. And I believe that this is a very important shared value that we can build together. There are so many other things, but I will just stop with that about the shared values and common grounds that we can build based on these commandments. There are so many others, but these are, in my opinion, the most important. Now, I will move ahead with another topic related to the mutual understanding between Muslims and Jews, which is the state that we are right now in, the modern state of Israel. And I say to my fellow Muslims, and I say to those who don't want to understand the truth, that Israel should always be undisputed. Israel should never apologize for its existence. We have a problem in the Muslim world. I'll be quite blunt with you. The word Israel itself, they just understand that in the Quran we have Israel as Jacob and that's it. But Israel is not Jacob alone. You know what is the perfect answer what is the perfect answer to give to those who say, what is Israel? Israel is 5 things. Israel is the name of Jacob, is the name of the nation, is the name of the land, is the name of the northern kingdom, and is the name of the modern state. It's a very complex name, but you have to understand it. And I always say to many people in the Middle East that the biggest misinformation we have with the nation of Israel and with the Jewish people is that people still view this land, this amazing land, as a foreign colonialist white project from Europe. And this is absolutely false. Why Israel is here? Because Israel has always been there. Why are we celebrating, by the way, in 2 weeks we are celebrating יום העצמאות, correct? זה יום הולדת של מדינת ישראל, right? אני לא מסכים. I don't believe that יום העצמאות is the day that Israel was born. I believe Israel is not 77 years old. Israel is 77 years young, 3,000 years old. We should always have this narrative to all of your friends that Israel is not 77 years old. And one of my Jordanian friends who argued with me about this, he told me, I don't believe in the Bible. Give me another thing that shows that Israel is not 77 years. Your Israel is not 77 years old. I said, okay, you know what? Let's go to Amman, Jordan, Amman Museum in Jordan. Amman Museum is so fascinating. It has a big stela or a big slab that is called the Moab or Mesha tablet. Mesha tablet, that's archaeological, that's not the Bible. Mesha wrote on record that he was so mad, furious against an Israeli king. His name is Umri, because he tried to do something that the Israelis love to do all the time, annex more land. So Umri wanted to annex the land of the Moabites, and Mesha was so happy that he defeated Umri. And I told him, you see, this is a proof. He told me, Lואי, listen, hold on. Mesha defeated Umri. I said, that's not the point. That is not the point. The point is that there was a king named Umri, and there was a kingdom called Israel, and they tried to do some battles. So many things happened, but it's historical correct that there was a kingdom called Israel. And Umri, if we don't have any archaeological evidence of Umri, we have only the Bible. But this stone proves to you that there was a kingdom of Israel. So Israel is not 77 years old. And I hope that one day we can have this officially, that Israel is not 77 years old. The second thing that we have about Israel, among the Muslims who don't really want to accept Israel, is that, well, you know what? The land was never called Israel. It was always called Palestine. And I know this is a very sensitive topic, but I'll be very blunt. I'm not against the Palestinian people, just FYI. I'm against Hamas and radical Islamists, but I'm not against any people. I'm against Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, but not against the Palestinian people. But the word Palestine, how it came to power, is something that we don't know enough in the Arab and the Muslim world, and Israel is not doing enough job to explain this. So the land, this piece of land, was always called the land of Canaan. It was renamed to the land of Israel by Joshua, and it was always called the land of Israel until an evil Roman emperor called Hadrian decided to expel the Jews because the Jews revolted. And Hadrian asked his advisors, who are the adversaries of this rebellious group, the Israelites? They said, you know, their adversaries are the Philistines, who lived in 5 strongholds, Ashdod, Ashqalon, Gaza, Gat, and Aqron. He said, you know what? I will erase. I hope it doesn't play. It didn't play. That's good. Back to Hadrian. Hadrian said, I will do something that will provoke them and erase their history. I will start changing names. Names of cities that they hold dear to their heart. He started with Shechem, and he renamed it the Greek Neapolis, which we call now Nablus. And the new place. And Al Jazeera made a documentary. Learn more about the beautiful Arabic city Nablus. From when it became an Arabic city. From where? So Hadrian first did it to Neapolis, to Shechem, and then he did it to Jerusalem. He renamed it to Ilia Capitolina. And the most important one is Judea. He renamed it from Judea to Syria, Palestina. and then it was named as Palestine. And this is why, by the way, this is why before 1947, when Golda Meir said, I am Palestinian, because this is the name of the land that everyone knew before the partition, but it's not a name of it was never the name of the entire land. Palestine or Philistine or Palestine was always the name of the west coast of the Holy Land. It was never the name of the whole land. The whole land was always called the land of Israel. And this is what really bothers me when I speak to Muslims who are named after people, who are named after prophets, kings, and judges who call this land Israel. When I was here in Israel for the first time in November 2024, I had a call with a good friend of mine. He is from Saudi. His name is Ilyas. And I told him, Ilyas, guess what? I am standing on the mountain that the person you are named after was here. He said, where is that? I told him, Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, the person you are named after, stood here against 400 false prophets of Baal, and he was telling them that what you're doing is wrong and you should worship the one and the only true God, the God of Israel. He said, no, but his name is Ilyas? I said, no, his name is Eliyahu, which the Lord is my God, but your name is the Greek form of this prophet who called for the worship of the God of Israel. He was surprised because I know that in the Quran it doesn't explain this, but it was like, wow, I want to learn more. And this is how you start changing people, by making this connection, to this land that doesn't have enough defense for its legitimacy. I will conclude with one thing about this land also, that we should, in my opinion, not only the people of Israel, but also those who love Israel like myself, as a proud Arab and a Muslim, also a Zionist, I would say, to defend the legitimacy of Israel is by telling the truth about the history of Israel that shows the existence of the Jewish people in this land. This is why Hanukkah is my favorite. You know why Hanukkah is my favorite? Not because of the Sivganiyot. No, that is not true. But because the story itself is remarkable. What is the story of Hanukkah? I will just summarize it in 2 lines. When Alexander the Great died, you had the Ptolemies in Egypt, his followers, and the Seleucids in Levant. The Seleucids said, we want to Hellenize this land and make it follow Greek culture. So, who is our deterrent? What is the deterrence? The Jews. The Jews refused to worship the Greek gods. So, you know what? We will provoke them by having the statue of Jupiter or Zeus into their holy house and change their belief. One family, one great Jewish family stood up against them. The Maccabees, Yehuda, Mattatyahu. And this is why when we celebrate Hanukkah, I'm against those who say, don't attach it to the Maccabees. Just make it Sivganiot and candles and everything. I said, you are losing the point. In Hanukkah, we are not celebrating only the festival of dedication. We are celebrating the victory of Yehuda the Maccabi. Yehuda who stood up and who said, no to Antichos. You will not take away the greatest gift that God gave me as a Jew on this land, and I will fight against you because I will not assimilate in a way that would make me lose my faith. Yehuda stood against Antichos, and this is why God made it miraculous that with an oil that is only sufficient for 1 day, it lasted for 8 days and 8 nights. And this is why it's truly Nes Gadol Haya Sham, or Haya Po. We are here in Israel. Nes Gadol Haya Po. All of this knowledge I'm telling you right now, I didn't get in the Middle East. I didn't get through school. I got when I lived abroad, and I want to convey it back to my people in the UAE, in Saudi, in Egypt, in the Arab world, because trust me, if people get to know all of this, I believe true peace will happen, because they would understand why the Jews are so attached to this land, why the Jews are so, as they should, I hope, so attached to this land because of the biblical bondage. And this is one of the things that I really noticed when I was in Israel last Friday, and we heard the sirens, of course, the Houthis, mashallah, they don't make us sleep. Lots of rockets everywhere. I got used to it. You go to the shelter, khalas, you're done, okay, you go back. But you go back, you celebrate life. I commend the people of Israel. I salute you for celebrating life. Because those who celebrate life will defeat those who worship death. And I saw it on Friday when I arrived. People went to the shelters and then they went back to the beach, to my favorite restaurant in Tel Aviv, Ha'achim, the best hummus, ani nishba, everywhere, here and there. It's like, but you tell people, but guys, like 15 minutes ago there was a rocket. Yeah, khalas, rocket, let's live. I put it on Snapchat. Snapchat is my huge Arabic following. I said, you cannot defeat these people. You cannot defeat them. They celebrate, they cherish life. And this is why I commend the people of Israel. But I say that this knowledge, we have to convey it back to the Arab audience. One last thing before I move to the last point. There is something that I have to criticize the people of Israel. I'll be very blunt. When I meet some Israelis, especially in Tel Aviv, I have to say the truth, especially in Tel Aviv, and they come to me and they say, Lואי, you talk about Israel and you talk about religious and everything. Habibi, we just want to live on this land and yeah, it's my land and everything, but stop talking about the Bible too much. Especially in Tel Aviv. I love Tel Aviv, of course. Of course. I love everyone. But I'm just saying that, you know what I tell them? I tell them, listen to me, I'll be very blunt as your friend. If you live in this land and you don't appreciate that this is the land that you are rooted in because of your hatarbut, because of your faith, because of your culture, allow me to say this, then why Israel? Why not Argentina or Uganda? If you are not attached to it, I'm really sorry to say this, you don't deserve it. You deserve it when you are attached to it, because, and don't be ashamed to say it publicly. This is what I love about some Israeli politicians and some others I don't agree with. But when I hear an Israeli politician, without naming names, standing in the United Nations saying that behind me on this wall there were words of a prophet who lived in my country, his name is Isaiah, who said, "Lo yasa goy el goy harib v'lo yilmidu od milhama." I come from this same country and I'm telling you, we are deeply rooted in that land. That makes me, as a Muslim, as an Arab, bravo bibi, wallah, bravo, 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 bravo. Because if you don't feel the connection, then why Israel? I am someone who used to hate Jews. And the Bible made me appreciate this country even more and more. I'm not asking you to make it a religious state, okay? But I'm saying do not lose your tradition. Imagine if I tell you I'm an Arab and I'm a Muslim, I don't fast Ramadan, I don't go to Mecca, I'm a Muslim. Are you? So I want the people of Israel to be so proud that they are from the same land that produced to the world the Bible, the history, and also other things as well, like Waze and cherry tomatoes and Telecam and USB and ICQ. You know, ICQ is the foundation of WhatsApp and other TCP/IP communication programs. But please hold on tight to this tradition. Be proud that you are from this land, because Muslims and other faiths will respect you more if they hear this from you, not only from me. Last thing, the most sensitive topic before I conclude. Not the last thing, the thing that is before the last thing. So, one of the criticism that I criticize the people of Israel and the leaders of Israel is all the tensions that are happening right now on Har HaBayit. You know who I criticize? Even though he was a brilliant military commander, but I criticize him. And I say, I wish you acted differently. Moshe Dayan. Moshe Dayan, he gave Har HaBayit as a gesture to those who took it as an obligation. Moshe Dayan, he said, I don't want to deal it as a Vatican. And now because of that, we have so many tensions on Har HaBayit. Before 1947, Muslims were bragging that the Aqsa is built undisputedly on top of Solomon's temple. After 1947 and after Moshe Dayan's statements, it became the so-called temple. The so-called temple. And when Jews want to pray on their holiest sites, Al Jazeera and other propagandas, they say the so-called temple. Jews are invading Al-Aqsa and the so-called temple. You know how I debunk this? How I defeat this narrative? By reminding my fellow Muslims where the word Bayt al-Maqdis came from. And this leads me to my favorite ignorant terrorist group in Egypt. It's called Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis. The name itself is ironic. They are young people who are so furious, they want to destroy Israel. And they are called Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis. Let's translate the name. The allies of the Jewish temple. We want to destroy Israel. What are you guys called? The allies of the Jewish temple. Yeah, it's true. Bayt al-Maqdis as a word, it's a key word that should remind Muslims and Jews and Christians that we got it from the Talmud. It first appeared in the Talmud. Bayt HaMikdash. Bayt HaMikdash is the source of Bayt al-Maqdis. So when you ever hear, remember what I told you in the beginning? Weaponize this information. When you ever hear your fellow Muslim friend tells you, the so-called temple, there is nothing called a temple. Okay, you believe in Bayt al-Maqdis. Yes. Tell me the story of Bayt al-Maqdis. What is Bayt al-Maqdis? Let me remind you that Bayt al-Maqdis is Bayt HaMikdash, which is the Jewish temple that was destroyed for the first time and then for the second time. And these are the remnants that we have today. Itself, Bayt al-Maqdis itself is a topic that should make us as Muslims and Jews understand the necessity of this religious site. I wish we can have people or leaders who would say, you know what? For the time being, let's share it. Let's allow the Jews to pray on their holiest site, and we want to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque and we pray. Why can't we? Because you don't have these leaders. I read in Bill Clinton's diary that Yasser Arafat refused to sign some papers, especially the 2000 deal between Barack and Clinton and Arafat, because Arafat told President Clinton, with all due respect, Mr. President, I don't believe in something called Haykal or a temple. Imagine if Arafat really believed that there was something called Bayt, there is something which is true that it was, that believed in something called the temple. And by the way, the second temple is undisputed. No one can deny it. The first temple, people are saying there are no archaeological, we can talk about that. But the second temple, no one can argue that it was there. He refused to sign a paper of peace because he simply said, I don't believe it existed. And guess what? Lately, there is an Arab state that condemned Israel. And it said, we condemn Israel for showing some videos of burning Al-Aqsa and rebuilding the so-called temple. But when I looked at the statement, I said, I wonder not. This is the state that hosts Al Jazeera. Of course they would say the so-called temple. Of course they would say the so-called temple. But we should arm ourselves with knowledge and tell people that there is nothing called so-called temple. The Jewish temple or Bayt HaMikdash existed. Say it bluntly. If you can't, bring your Muslim friends who are Zionists, who can say it. But you cannot rewrite history or erase factual truth to appease people here and there. Bayt al-Maqdis should be a common ground between world leaders who want to solve the matter of Jerusalem by saying, let's share the space. And honestly, when I say let's share the space, I would say let's share the space and give more freedom to the Jews than they have today, because it is their holiest site. Remind me, as a Muslim who performed pilgrimage twice, Hajj twice, what do I have to do with Bayt al-Maqdis? I performed Hajj, I performed Umrah. It's never in my rituals that I have to do anything with Jerusalem. It's only in Mecca and Medina. But I'm just saying, I understand that there are some people who view it so sacredly, but if we have the knowledge about Bayt al-Maqdis or al-Haykal, we would really understand why the Jews are attached to this spot. Lastly, before I conclude, that is the last thing. Now, I know people when they see the politics here and there, they say, oh, Looy, it's gloomy, it's cloudy. Are you optimistic? I am so optimistic with the Abraham Accords, with the Abraham Accords 2.0. You know why I'm optimistic? Because the American administration that brought the Abraham Accords are now back on track. And the American president, may God bless him, President Trump, who named it Abraham Accords, not normalization deals as some people in the old administration wanted to change. He called it Abraham Accords. It will thrive. And you know what is the best thing about the Abraham Accords? It is not security agreement between Israel and some Arab states. It is people to people. I met people from Israel when they came to Abu Dhabi and the UAE, and of course it's an open invitation to all of you to come to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. When they come, I met some I would say radical Jews in the settlements who came to me and they say, Looy, I'll be very dughri. The word mosque to me terrified me. אני נגד. I'm against mosques. Mosques are places of hate. Places that curse Jews, that curse us. They don't like us. I hate mosques. But when I came to Sheikh Zayed Mosque in Abu Dhabi, I saw something different. When I saw people wearing galabiya or kandura, and they greet me and they say hi, hello, I say, no, this is different. So I said to him, I wanted to say his name. I didn't, thank God. So I told him, well, this is great. This is how you change. This is how we change. When we mingle and when we talk and when we spend time with each other, we destroy the narrative of the extremists who don't want you to believe in this. And I'm so happy that you believe in this now. And look at the Israelis and how many Israelis come to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Amazing. This is the future. And I wanted to come here to tell you that I am very optimistic about the advancement of the Abraham Accords, about many countries that will join the Abraham Accords, including Saudi Arabia, inshallah. אני מקווה שהחלום הזה יתגשם, inshallah, בקרוב, inshallah. And I'm so optimistic that so many things will develop and happen in the region. And I always say, it's our duty as peacemakers, as social media influencers, to give people hope and to tell them it is possible. Arm yourself, please, with the knowledge of this lecture to stand against the radicals who don't want to see us in this room, or who don't want you to believe that Muslims and Jews can be friends, or Arabs and Israelis can get along. We can get along. We are friends. We will build the Middle East. We will reconcile the Muslim-Jewish relations. And inshallah, in 10 years or 15 years' time, you know what we will worry about? We will worry about who is building more AI chipsets, Israel or UAE. Inshallah. Thank you so much. We can take Q&A.
שיש לכם המון שאלות, אז אנחנו נשמח לקחת כמה שאלות. כן, נופר, בבקשה.
באנגלית, בבקשה. I cannot hear what? I'm sorry? What is my solution for that the Jews cannot pray in the on Har Habayit, right? Who's asking? I'm sorry. Can you raise your hand? Ah, okay. I'm sorry. I was looking there. Okay. So what is the solution? So I told you, in my opinion, the solution would be religious leaders or political leaders to understand the importance of this site to the Jewish people. Unfortunately, not many people or not many decision makers in the Arab world understand this. So we have to educate them. In my opinion, we share the space. We share it. Even though I say we share it and give more freedom to Jews, because this is their holiest site and their only holy site. But I would absolutely go for or vote for a change in the status quo. That is unfair, in my personal opinion. So the problem is, every time the Jews go and pray, Al Jazeera and they make a noise that the Jews are trying to do this and that. At least we start with the idea that, let me remind you please that this is the holiest site of the Jews, and let us agree that this site is so significant to the Jews and they want to pray on their holiest site. I remind you, it was Dayan's fault. Honestly. He was an amazing leader, but he did a terrible mistake. That's my idea.
When will the Saudis return to talk about the Masjid al-Aqsa in Jordan, where it is alongside with the Masjid al-Adna? Al-Adna wal-Aqsa in Jordan. When will they return to the truth?
I respect Professor Mordechai Kidar. He's a great guy. He's a great professor. Please do. That interpretation is not widely accepted by the majority. The majority still believe that Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem. I talked to so many scholars about this opinion. Some of them agree, but the majority do not really agree with that. And to me, is just like, let's fix the current situation and improve it. Let's make both people pray, but let's remind the world that this is the Jewish holiest site that they should never be deprived from praying to. That is my solution, of course. You can take two more. Yes.
دحسي معي بالعربي وأسألك سؤال. هل تعلم أن في التوراة وين هي بلد فلسطين؟ Did you know where is it exactly the land of Palestine? It's written in the Torah itself.
According to what I know, it's the 5 cities on the Canaanite coast.
No. They conquer these 5 towns from Judah land. Because in Isaiah at chapter 15, it's you can see the whole part of Israel between Ashdod and south until Gaza, until Rafah, and you take the strip until the Dead Sea. This is the land of Yehuda. It's not our TV, our thing media that they call us, they tell us this is the desert of Judah. Judah is the king. They give him the desert. Judah take from Ashdod, as I tell you before. So what is it exactly? It's written in the Torah. It's written in the Bible that Rabbi Sadion comment, And you can see it there. In my book, you can see it there.
I will be more than happy to learn more about that. The point I know about the Philistine, they came from a Greek mountain, from Crete, and then they invaded the west coast. But of course, I would be more than happy to learn more about that. And yes, I would be more than happy to learn more about. But I'm saying, and by the way, when people ask me, I'll be very quick about this. When people ask me, do you believe in a Palestinian state? I say the following. Before we talk about a Palestinian state, let's talk about having a Palestinian leadership that says out loud publicly, we recognize Israel as a Jewish state. We will live side by side with Israel. We will stop teaching our kids to hate Jews. And we will thrive, prosper together. If this happens, trust me, people in Tel Aviv will march into the streets demanding a Palestinian state. But as long as it's not there, I don't think it will happen anytime soon. And I say, many of people that I know personally, may their memory be a blessing, who died on October 7. And I would like to say that one of them was Imbar Shintov, Zichrona al-Bracha, inshallah. May her memory be a blessing. Many of those who died were the most pacifist Israelis who came to me on my Instagram before October 7, and they were saying, Lואי, you are so right-wing. We believe in the right of the Palestinians to have a state. We love the Palestinians. They should have a state. And they were rewarded by being killed and murdered on October 7. So Hamas killed the hope of even the Israelis to have a Palestinian state. When I was asked in a big stadium in America, I said, you know what? Let's just focus first on finding this Palestinian leadership, and then we can talk about the Palestinian state. So that's for me. We can take two more questions.
أهلا وسهلا.
أهلا وسهلا.
بقدر أحكي بالعربي.
تحكي بالعربي وبعدين أنا أترجم. بعدين I will translate.
أنا هون عربي ليش ما أحكي معك؟
ما شاء الله.
السؤال الأول سؤالين هي شخصية.
Okay. So two personal questions. I'm a Scorpio. FYI.
ما بقدر إيدك من بابا.
Okay.
السؤال الأول هو ما بتخاف من المتطرفين اللي ما بيحبوا النشاطات اللي بتعمل.
Okay, you're not afraid of the extremists who threaten, who don't like what you do?
نعم. والثاني هو أنت قلت إن سافرت على فرنسا عشان التعليم. وكنت عايش مع يهود.
عايش عائلة يهودية.
عشت مع أنا ما فهمت هذا المقطع. كنت مع اليهود وأنت كنت بتكره.
Yes, about my travel to France, and I hated Jews. Yes. So, first of all, am I afraid of extremists? Yes, I get lots of threats online, but you know what? I was in their shoes for a very long time. When I was young, I defeated them, so I became invincible. And this is why when I come to Israel and my friends tell me, you're not afraid of the sirens? I tell them, Habibi, those who fire the rockets, I defeated their ideology. You think I would be afraid of their rockets? I defeated something even bigger. So I'm not afraid. Baruch Hashem. Hazak ve'ematz. Al ta'aros ve'al The second thing, I didn't know the family was Jewish. I was in France, the Tzarfat, it's very personal it's very personal, the religion of the family. So they just gave me, it's a host family program, so they just gave me a paper. You want single room, double room, family with pet, no pet? That's it. So when I signed, I thought, it's a Moroccan family, maybe, or Tunisian family. I went and I saw in the living room a big Hamagen David. I was about to scream. I remembered an Egyptian TV show called Ra'fat al-Haggan. It's the top Egyptian intelligence officer who infiltrated Israel. It's a sci-fi, but I just remembered that. And I asked for a transfer. And I have the email from 2010. And I will publish it soon. I don't feel proud of it. I will publish it soon and I will make a video. This is why you need to follow me on Instagram, please. First thing you do, after we finish this. The email I wrote 2010 when I went to Paris. Dear Accord School. It's Accord School. I lived in Lafayette area in Paris. I said, dear Accord School, I don't feel comfortable with a Jewish family. Please find me a Muslim family. I don't feel proud of saying that, but that's the truth. They told me it will take 2 weeks. The family, Baruch Hashem, were Mizrahi. So they did 2 Shabbat dinners and it worked. You know, and they cooked the Yemeni jahnoon. Wallah, okay, I'm becoming a Zionist no more and more. No, but it really worked. But I didn't know that they were Jewish. And the mother, and by the way, I want to say one thing. Rachel, she lives in Israel, in Netanya, the French colony. She left she left France in 2018 because of the Antishemiyut that she had. And I told her, Rachel, come with me on social media. You know why? She's so afraid of social media. She doesn't like social media. But I tell her, Rachel, God touched my heart through you. And I want people to appreciate you. She's now Israeli. But this is why French Jews, with all due respect, my favorites. French Jews. French Jews, I love you beaucoup, beaucoup. Really, it's too much. So, yeah, one more question.
شكرا. وهكذا كان دراسة مميز كثير كثير كثير. وسؤالي بمحل في ادعاء في الإسلام إنه إحنا اليهود مش أبناء إسرائيل الأصلية في القرآن وفي التوراة. شو رأيك بالنسبة لهذا الموضوع؟
So when people say to me the Israelis today are not the same Israelites, they are the Ashkenazi and the Polish and everything, I say, you know what my response is? They are. Same language, same traditions, same belief, same faith. They are. They are the same people. And no one would hold on tight on this belief and get themselves into trouble if they were not part of this family. So of course the Israelis today, but we have to convince the extremist Chinunim that they don't see it this way, that they don't feel attached to it. We have to tell them, and I have so many friends, I love them, I love everyone, but I love them, and I tell them, please feel attached. I don't want you to be super religious. Feel attached that you have this tradition, because when you say, I'm very Americanized, you know, what's up, people will not connect the dots. But you have to feel proud that you are from the land that has a 3,000 years plus history, that the prophets, kings, and heroes, and judges of 1.8 billion Muslims who would follow came from this land. They came from the land of Israel. They came from this land. You know, I was filming a video in Jerusalem explaining to my Muslim friends that the word for hell in Islam comes from this very spot, Gihannom, in Jerusalem. Gihannom. It is the spot that the prophet Jeremiah condemned people putting their children as sacrifices to the god Miloch. It happened here in Jerusalem, and it was transformed from Gihannom to Gehenna in the Christianity to Jahannam. Everything is related to this holy land. Everything, especially Jerusalem. This is why when you walk through the streets of Jerusalem, you really feel so. Listen, there is Jerusalem Central. Okay. I believe in that. There is something that when you leave Jerusalem, you have to come back. You have to come back. And I always stay, by the way, in this area, Machna Yehuda. I love it so much. So, this is my answer to you. Same people, same language, same tradition, same festivals. Do you know that Jesus of the Nazareth, that our dear Christian friends follow, you know that he celebrated Hanukkah in the Gospels? In the Gospel of John, there is a verse that says, and Jesus ascended to Jerusalem for the festival of dedication in winter times. What is the festival of dedication? It's Hanukkah. Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. Jesus called the land Israel. Jesus was calling his allies, what a great Israelite you are. Jesus called the cities of this land the cities of Israel. Jesus told the Samaritan lady, you worship God on a mountain that you do not know. Why we worship God on a mountain that we know? Because salvation comes from the Jews. What a progressive Palestinian Jesus was. One more question, please. I would love to stay more, but I really have to catch the flight, so I'll take one more question.
Hey. So first of all, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
And I have one question.
Sure.
All your talk is about interpretation.
Yes.
All your talk, you're putting some stuff on the flag and the rest you're putting down. You're choosing to take one side and you're choosing to take the rest and putting down as less important. And my question is about influence, because that's where you work. So when you choosing, you trying to put your perspective that you're putting on your perspective in an Instagram, that you have the sound back, right? That's how it works. So how do you feel the possibility of changing the people that not in your sound back?
So you know when I feel the change happens, when I received the call from my friend, from my cousin Fahd from Saudi Arabia, and he told me, Lואי, I'm going to Dubai. I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to Dubai to spend a Shabbat dinner this Friday with an Israeli Jewish family. Because of your videos, I really wanted to explore who the Jews are. And you know what? I like it. I'm going again next Friday. This is what you see. I'm not expecting people to change overnight. I didn't. But it will. We plant the seeds, and we always say, God is our witness. He knows that we are doing this for a good purpose. And you know, He is capable of doing. I always say, when people say, how do you receive hate? Or how do you handle hate? I say, I handle it because I know it's a mission worth fighting for, even if I get killed, by the way. My favorite hero of peace is the Egyptian President Sadat, who paid his life for peace. And you know what? We're going to die anyway. If I die for this mission, I would welcome it. And I would say to God, I did my best to bring your children together. It's a mission worth fighting for. Even if you influence one person, 2 persons, 3 persons, you plant the seeds and you leave the rest to God. You know what Yeshayahu said for changing people's minds and hearts? He was always saying this verse, Go'alenu Adonai Tzabaot Shmo Kidosh Yisrael. Fa'adina Rabbu Jununi Ismuhu Quddus Israel. That was in the context of changing people. And I believe in that. So I say I do my best and I leave the rest to God. But I do it with a good intention. My mission and the peace activist mission is not to part people away. Is to bring people closer based on commonalities. We want to make, inshallah, Abraham Avinu proud. Inshallah. Thank you so much for coming. Each and every one of you. I really would have loved to stay more, but I have to go to the airport. And I have a very special tour.